Hello, this is Dean Bostic, and welcome to Charities 5. Those of you that haven't seen my show yet, I interview and increase awareness of various nonprofit organizations and fundraisers and causes within the neighborhoods. Today we have an extremely important show, and I'd like to invite our two guests today from Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club. And please, sir.
Hi, Dean. My name is Marcus Carter. I'm the Executive Officer of Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club.
Thanks for coming.
Okay. Yep. Pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
Hi, Dean. My name's Matt Sroka.
Thank you.
I'm the Vice President of the club.
Okay,
Nice
thank
to
you.
meet
Thank you guys so much for coming. You're going to give us a lot of great information. First of all, Mr. Carter, tell us how Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club differs from other shooting ranges.
Well, Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club has been in the community since 1926. It's certainly the oldest club or range in the county, and we have a foundation of our club which was based upon sport and national defense. So we have a strong emphasis on preparedness, educating folks how to responsibly utilize firearms for times of not only for sport but also for emergencies, whether they be at home or throughout the community or abroad. So. A little bit about where we began. The club is on Seebeck Highway. Camp Wesley Harris is the Navy Marine Corps shooting range. Right now, currently it's next door, but it was founded in 1929 and was built on the Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club range reservation. Okay. Many of our members participated in the assembly of that facility. At that time, there were opening ceremonies from back in the 30s where there'd be up to 3,000 people on our property helping to aid in training of military personnel, law enforcement, local civilians, etc. So it's been a very rich heritage and history that has surrounded the club. A lot of activities that we offer out there, not only from the sports standpoint, activities such as bullseye pistol shooting, which is one-handed precision handgun shooting, action shooting, United States Practical Shooting Association we're affiliated with, and that's, again, it's action shooting. It's moving through a course of fire safely with a firearm in your hands, basically solving a puzzle and shooting at targets in a fun and controlled fashion. Small bore junior program, ours is a program that has been ran for a number of years, and in conjunction with the Kingston Junior Marksman Club, Kitsap has proudly seen several youngsters earn scholarships to college because of their ability to shoot a .22 rifle.
What ages?
Well, juniors can be as young as about 8 years of age. Wow. Depends a lot on not just physical maturity, but needless to say, mental and emotional maturity as well. And then up through about 17 or 18, depending on the program they're in. Nice. So it's a very valuable program and has been. Our senior junior small bore coach, Mike Hastings, in fact, his daughter Mara won a full scholarship to Murray State University in Kentucky for her ability to shoot a .22 rifle. It's been a valuable activity teaching youngsters about responsibility along with the possibility of truly earning some credits towards going to school. So some of the other activities that we do at Kitsap include precision rifle shooting, high power rifle shooting, and certainly the majority of folks just like to come out to the range to plink, as we would refer to it. A lot of folks used to go out into the woods and put tin cans and things off on a hillside to shoot at. With our growing community, we've been very involved with trying to get folks moved out onto the controlled, organized ranges so that can be monitored and leave areas for hiking for just that, with no danger of somebody walking into some makeshift shooting range. Kitsap started the Take It to the Range program a number of years ago and issued cards to the Department of Natural Resources so that their enforcement people out in the woods, if they saw somebody shooting, they could just give them a card and it would give them a free trip out to Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, again, to encourage them to be out on the ranges. The The other aspect, and probably the most important aspect of what we do, has to do with educational opportunities. We have not only ran just basic home firearm safety classes, which we'll talk a little bit more here in a little bit, the hunter education classes are very important, hunting being still a very important part of our heritage and what a lot of folks still take part in every year. Our hunter education program is second to none. We also have personal protection classes where folks can come and learn how to safely handle a firearm at home in the event of an intruder or something of that nature. Too many folks tend to think that a firearm is like a magic oracle. They can just, buy it and crime goes away, and that's not the case. And so we want them to learn how to use it responsibly and safely. So,
what type of qualifications are needed to use a gun or rifle? I mean, when you get qualified or certified, is there a certain number of hours you have to complete, or is it a test at the end of your course? How do you get certified to say, okay, this person's safe to use a firearm, we can let them go in and use it?
Well, in our country and in our state, ownership of a firearm is a right, according to Article 2 of the Bill of Rights. And the state constitution, Article 1, Section 24, talks about how people have a right to bear firearms, and that right shall not be infringed, by the government. So there's no qualification per se, but certainly the primary gist of what Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, was established for, is to make sure that folks have a proper education in how to responsibly use them. And the classes we offer, take for example our Level 1 personal protection class, is an 8-hour class.
Okay.
So they can come in and take that course. They will spend some time on the range. We talk quite a bit about legal requirements, as well as what a firearm truly is and isn't, how to use it, what can get you in trouble. In fact, for some folks, a firearm may not be the best solution for their security needs. So we don't pull any punches. We let them know what the reality is.
This is serious stuff,
It is very serious stuff. And we want them to be able to make an informed decision. We get actually called quite often with folks that have said, I want to take your class, what gun should I go purchase? And at that point, we recommend they don't go purchase a firearm, but we will provide one or several to try if they want to take the class. That way, again, they can make that informed decision whether indeed a firearm is the best thing for them. Okay,
that's a good idea. And you speak with schools also?
We do. We've spoken to several of the schools. We've spoken at Olympic College. We're available to speak to any group or organization. Several social groups have asked us to come speak to them as well. So we have an extremely talented crew of instructors that can cover just about any subject or any need as it pertains to firearms or the use of firearms in force. So.
What's the youngest group you've ever spoke to? How do they take it? Do they understand about safety, or was it just kind of like did they take it seriously or not, do you think?
Well, they do. Again, we try to put it into terms that they quickly understand. It isn't a game. This isn't a video game that you can just reset and go back to the beginning.
Right.
As we'll talk here in a little bit about the 4 commandments of firearm safety and what things really are, the idea that of the seriousness of it, again, depends on the maturity level then to determine what it is that we teach them. For example, youngsters that are very young, so let's say through the age of 5 or 6, or perhaps even beyond, again, depending on maturity level, it's very simple. We and the NRA have used and developed a program. The NRA calls it the Eddie Eagle program, where we teach them very basic terminologies. We'll put it in a phrase that's easy to understand, and that is, if a youngster finds a gun, the number one thing to do is stop, then don't touch, leave the area, and tell an adult.
Nice. All right.
Okay, we're not teaching them how to handle a firearm at that age. They don't have the mental maturity or the physical maturity for it. So all we want them to do is to get clear of that and get an adult involved in the situation. If they find a firearm, or at a friend's house and they see a friend finds mom or dad's firearms, it's stop, don't touch, leave the area, tell an adult. And by the time they get done with the little color page we give them and singing the little jingle, they have it down pretty pat. So. And then it can develop from there. Youngsters start getting to that age that they're more curious about firearms. We find that the best solution is to start to teach them. We've all heard the adage, curiosity killed the cat. Well, unfortunately, curiosity kills a lot of youngsters and adults each year. And if you take the curiosity factor away in a responsible and controlled environment, we find that that truly works best in preventing the unthinkable when it comes to having firearms in the home. So as they get a little older, they can begin with some basic firearms handling where we overemphasize, if that can happen, the firearm safety rules and how it functions and mom and dad's role in that. And again, can develop into where they realize that, wow, if I'm responsible with this and I learn and I act in a mature fashion, this is a lot of fun. I can do more of it and work them into a competitive scenario so that, again, they can potentially earn a scholarship if they want to stay with the programs.
That would be nice. Mr. Soroka, please.
Well, I was going to say, and highlight what Mark was just talking about, a lot of what we see on an event that we have each year called Family Fun Day, and it's a free event. It's something that we promote when we appear. We have a booth at the Kitsap County Fair each year, and we offer that opportunity there. And then folks come out to the range. It's usually the following weekend, and we provide the ammunition, we provide the firearms, and a lot of families come out, and all different age groups, male, female, whole families. Sometimes just a mom with a son or just a daughter. And you really, kind of what Mark was saying there, you really have a sense of when it takes any sort of curiosity out of it. Once they start working with it, people totally get comfortable and they start to have fun. And that's what it's about, is being educated enough to that point where you become proficient and your muscle memory is strong and you're having a good time with it.
The Family Fun Day and the Community Fun Day that Matt just spoke about, we're actually going to increase the number of those that we do. We'll be doing one sometime between Christmas and New Year's this year. Folks can look for that on the website. Also, probably during the Easter break, there will be another one this year because they're so popular, they're requested so much because, again, when youngsters start asking or seeking something, don't think that you can hide it from them from very long. I know my folks couldn't hide Christmas gifts from me when I wanted to find them. So if we give them the opportunity to be able to satisfy that curiosity, we find it very effective.
Okay. So we're going to take a brief break, and when we come back, I want to talk to Mr. Carter and Mr. Soroka more about gun safety. We're going to talk about how do you do charities, and you're going to give us a demonstration on gun safety, various locks, and how to safely handle firearms. Okay, so we will be back. And welcome back to Charities 5. This is Dean Bostic, and today we have Mr. Marcus Carter and Mr. Soroka from Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club. And this is a nonprofit organization. And guys, how do you work with charities?
Well, we've proudly been involved with charities in a number of fashion, formal charities and informal charities. The informal can be just as simple as a local mother or somebody calling up and saying, you know, she's worried, there's a gun in the home, she wants training, doesn't have any funding for that. That funding's never been an issue when it comes to training community members, youngsters, adults to safely handle a firearm. So it can be that simple with the informal charity, as it were. But the formal charities we've worked with, there's been several of them. The Make-A-Wish Foundation, the Wounded Warriors Program. One we've done a lot with lately is the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society's Combat Casualty Assistance Campaign. So veterans that have been hurt in the Persian Gulf can draw monies from events that we host. Our primary charity event we do each year is called the Courage Classic. The Courage Classic is a multi-gun shooting match. It's an action match where we invite law enforcement individuals and teams, military individuals and teams, and civilian individuals and teams to come together in a fun match that just produces a ton of smiles, people having a good time, and some much needed funds for whoever the charity is. And again, this year, last few years, it's been the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society. So a number of them. Special Olympics we've worked with in the past as well, and along with a couple of local health organizations. So Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club itself isn't a charity, but we are a not-for-profit community service organization. That being said, we live a lot on charitable donations ourselves from community members that'll bring us building materials or substance that we can use with our classes, etc.
So what do we have here?
Well, we have a couple of firearms here, again with gun safety being paramount for us. We've actually double, triple, quadruple checked. We've got a couple of unloaded firearms, brand names. It just happened to be, this is a Glock Model 34. This happens to be a Smith & Wesson 357 revolver. We feel it's real important, especially around the holiday season, for folks to understand how to properly secure their firearms. Going to have out-of-town guests in the home, things of that nature. As I mentioned earlier, curiosity unfortunately kills a lot of children, and sometimes even worse than the children can be curious adults that think that because they're an adult, they know how to safely handle something. And the reality is, as we've found here today, there's several folks we've run into today that have never touched a firearm before, and wonderfully to their credit, they don't even want to touch it. But that's not always the case. Right. So we think it's important to make sure everyone knows, first off, the 4 commandments of firearm safety. And number 1, the first commandment of firearm safety is that you treat all firearms as though they are loaded. No exceptions. What do you suppose is the number 1 statement made when somebody unintentionally hurts another with the handling of a firearm?
I didn't know it was loaded.
Exactly. We hear it all too often. No excuse. You treat them as though they're loaded all the time, no matter what. Even if you've seen somebody unloaded. We actually do demonstrations when we have more of a facility for doing that. That really drives that point home, where people watch the demonstration and they do believe they just saw the gun being unloaded. And then we show them in reality there's still a round of ammunition in the chamber, and which could cause real problems. So that's number 1, is you assume all firearms are always loaded. Number 2 is you never allow the muzzle to cover, which means to point at anything you're not willing to destroy. Now in the case of any firearm, the muzzle, it's like the muzzle of a dog. It's that front pointy end that's got teeth and it can bite you in the case of a dog. Well, it's the same thing with a firearm. It's that front pointy end, as it were, whether it be with this Glock handgun here, or semi-automatic, or this revolver. That front pointy end is the muzzle. Same thing with a rifle or a shotgun. And the rule being, you don't ever allow that to point at something that, should it unintentionally discharge, that it won't be destroyed because of it. Because once that discharge process starts, somebody pulls the trigger, you can't stop it. There's no recall factor, and whatever that muzzle was pointed at the moment the bullet leaves the barrel is about to be hit really, really hard by a small piece of metal that can do a lot of damage. So that's really the golden rule too, by the way, is even if you're handling one, you're trying to treat it as though it's loaded, you still need to make sure that it's always pointed in the safest possible direction. Rule number 3 is to keep your finger off the trigger and out of the trigger guard. Now, with any firearm, they'll have a trigger, and the trigger guard is that piece of plastic or steel that surrounds the trigger. It's not enough to have your finger off the trigger. You need to have it outside that trigger guard until you're at a range and you have the sights lined up on a target and you're ready to shoot. Then you can put your finger inside the trigger guard to be able to utilize it. Probably the second most common statement made when there's been an injury due to the unintentional discharge of a firearm is, the gun just went off. Well, in fact, I read one this morning off the internet news. a gun just going off would be like your car out here in the parking lot just starting up.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not going to happen unless somebody manipulates the ignition switch. And the ignition switch on every firearm is that trigger. It's the most violated gun safety rule out there, and one that I'm convinced as an instructor for over 30 years that if people would obey just that one rule alone, injuries due to the unintentional discharge of a firearm would drop by 99.99% overnight. And then the last of the 4 commandments, and note that they are commandments, not suggestions. Okay.
I can do this for sure.
The last of the 4 is to make sure that when you are going to shoot a firearm, whether you're out camping somewhere or at a range even, that you have an acceptable target. You know it's something that you can shoot at. Some folks they intend to shoot, they fire at a target, but if it's the wrong type of material, it can cause injury, things can bounce back and hurt people, etc. So you should know what your target is and know its surroundings and what's behind it and beyond it. You know, shooting at a paper target simply because you hit the paper doesn't mean the bullet stops. It's going to keep going. And even targets that are more substantial, again, bullets can go through and penetrate beyond. It seems to be popular to shoot at water jugs, things of that nature. Well, that doesn't stop the projectile.
Up in the air sometimes during the holidays.
That's a really bad idea.
Yeah, that's foolishness for folks to shoot in the air. That whatever goes up's got to come down, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere underneath it. So anyway, those are the 4 commandments, and they really need to be followed without fail. They can go to our club's website or come by the range sometime. We'll give them a big printout of it, give them a card with them printed on the back, whatever it takes to help them, give them a tool to teach their children.
And what's your website again?
Our website is gunsafety.org, so www.gunsafety.org. If they go there, that is the homepage for Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club, and there's links to the Eddie Eagle program and things of that nature under education. They can also call the range, which the number at the range is 360-373-1007, and a range officer can certainly direct them to whatever they need in the way of educational opportunities, etc. So,
how do the locks here, how do they work?
well, there's a number of locks that people can get. These are 2 of what I consider the most popular and probably the best all around. They're cable locks. You can get these for free up at the Sheriff's Office, Kitsap County Sheriff's Office. Steve Boyer has seen to it that they'll have them there available. They can also get them for free at Kitsap Rifle and Revolver Club. We will just give these to people as well. It's like the old bicycle cable lock. There is some plastic coating to protect the finish of a firearm. And depending on the type of firearm it is, if it's a revolver, they can drop it through the cylinder, and then after they lock it and put it away, again, the gun can't close and it can't be fired. Even at home, just an old standard master lock padlock. You don't have to go even get one. You know, if you don't have time, company's coming over. If you got an old padlock somewhere, if you got a revolver, they can just hasp it around here and lock it, and that's enough to keep the gun disabled. The thing we do want to emphasize is that a firearm simply buys you time. Depending on the age of the child or the determination of the person, they are never foolproof. But it is something that it can be very, very useful when it comes to delaying folks in being able to get it. You can also, with a semi-automatic, you can take this and drop it down through the bottom of the firearm.
That's a good idea, yeah.
And again, you have it locked, so even if that goes forward, it can't lock, you can't put a magazine in it, and it cannot fire. So again, and then I've seen people take these and in a closet, put them up over the rack in a closet as well, to not only delay somebody getting access to the firearm, but even it walking away. So there's a lot of little things. If they contact the club, we'd be happy to show them different locking mechanisms and show them how on their firearm some of these things will work. It's unfortunate, but there are some firearms, they call them trigger locks or gun locks out there that can provide a false sense of security. And in reality, even when you put them in place properly, if that firearm gets loaded, even a young person can actually make that firearm go bang with a trigger lock in place.
Like a gun safe or a gun lock box, do you think those are safe enough, or would you need?
Those work very well. And again, people got to look at their own personal needs and, and their own situation. One of the few things that you'll find, one of the very few things, I guess surprising to some degree, but wonderful for many of us, is that when it comes to a gun safe, there's no sales tax collected on a gun safe in Washington State. It's one of the only items that you can go purchase and you don't have to pay sales tax on, because again, the state saw the importance of encouraging people to lock them up and make sure they're secured. And when you might be looking at anywhere from a $100 gun cabinet to a $2,000 gun safe, it can be a substantial savings for them. So something for folks to keep in mind.
Mr. Soroka.
Another good point, Dean, to remember, and we're talking about all these mechanisms and putting the guns in certain places and locking them in boxes. The other really important, overlooked common sense rule is don't keep ammunition where you keep your gun. And that may go against the grain of some people in the way they think when they want to have access to it for a situation like self-defense in the home. But in the case of protecting your family members, which should be your first and foremost responsibility when there's a firearm in the home, is to keep your ammunition separate. So if you have your gun in your safe, you're not supposed to be keeping ammunition in the safe as well. Because if that child does get in there, or maybe that curious adult
figures out
gets
how to
in
get
there,
it together,
then they have everything there and they have the components that are needed for that to go bang. If it's not there and the ammunition is locked up somewhere else in a metal ammo box somewhere else, or maybe in even a separate footlocker or safe of another sort, then those are separated out, and it increases the odds that the two shall never meet.
Wow, that's good. Man, we're running low on time, but I know we can go on for hours, about gun safety. I mean, there's so much more to know. You guys have done such a great job on teaching our viewers the basics, things to get started. If you want to know more about gun safety, please go to your website, which again is
www.gunsafety.org.
Okay.
And again, the phone number up at the range is 360-373-1007. We'd be happy to give them any information that they need.
Okay. Closing comments, Mr. Soroka?
Well, things look very good for the shooting community here in Kitsap, and what Mark was mentioning earlier about the activities that we offer. Probably the most important thing to remember is we have our core group of shooters that are from our county here in Kitsap, but we draw regional shooters, people from all over the state and outside the state, for the activities that we host. And the gaining popularity of those and the education that goes along with it is bringing people into this community. And that's good for all of us because it spreads the wealth around as well. So a lot of organizations benefit from the people that come to our range.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much again for coming today. I'd love to have you back.
Thank you,
We
Dean.
can probably do a lot more half-hour segments. Time is limited today, but I wish we had more time. This is really important for everyone to know, kids, adults, anyone that's thinking about purchasing a gun, that wants to use a gun, learn how to use a gun, please go to Mr. Soroka or Mr. Carter. They're veterans, they know their stuff, so check out their website. And I want to thank viewers again for tuning in to Charities 5, and thank again our guests. Really appreciate you guys coming today. And we will see you again on Charities number 6, which will be coming soon. Thank you. Bye.